Hey everyone, over the last few weeks I've been playing on my Nintendo Switch quite a lot. I must admit it was gathering dust for a while, but I got sent out these Nixie Hyperine 2 Joy-Cons, so I've been testing those and I've started playing Zelda Tears of the Kingdom again, so it's kind of rekindled my love for the Switch. So please do stay tuned for my full review of those. But of course, we don't want to talk about the Nintendo Switch this week. This week we want to talk about the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, in this video, I really want to focus on pricing because I think this has been the most divisive topic this week about the Nintendo Switch. But just briefly, I want to share a few pages. I will leave links to all of these pages, but this is the official Nintendo website. I do encourage you to log on, check out the video clips, check out all the news about it. There's announcements. You can see here Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong Bonanza. There's a dedicated page that talks about the Switch 2 hardware. So I encourage you to check it out if you haven't already to learn more about, the larger screen, more power, the Joy-Cons, which can magnetically connect and be used as mice. We've got game chat, we've got USB cameras now, etc. So there's a lot to take in there. I think it's quite a good launch, but yeah, these things always get criticism as well. But moving forward, I encourage you to check those out. I encourage you to check out the Wikipedia page here for the list of Nintendo Switch 2 games, etc. But what I'd like to do today is talk about pricing. Pricing is something that's really dividing people, and I can kind of see why. I can see why. It's quite divisive, but I can see why a lot of people are unhappy. Now, for those of you who don't know, they've announced the Switch 2 and they've announced the pricing of the Switch 2. And the Switch 2 is coming out here in the UK at, here. It's coming out at 390, I think, just for the console. But if you want the digital version of Mario Kart World, it takes it up to like 430. And that's kind of similar pricing around the world. If you don't buy Mario Kart, well, it's going to cost you like $70, 65, $70 for the digital version, another $10 or so for the hard copy. So yeah, that's the price of the consoles. And I will say, as far as the console pricing goes, I'm okay with it. I really am okay with it. I know a lot of people are not okay with the hardware pricing. I know a lot of people are bringing out comparisons with tablets, with the Steam Deck, etc., and other Android handhelds and Windows handhelds, etc. And those comparisons are valid. Of course, they're valid because you're spending a lot of money. You want to see what your options are. And for a lot of people, especially if you play a lot of PC games, some of those other alternatives are maybe the best way to go. I'm okay with the pricing of the Switch 2 because, one is I expected this increase in price. We're getting a lot more power. We're getting a larger handheld. And also, the Switch 2 is probably going to be Nintendo's only console for the next 5 or 6 years. So I'm looking at it ahead, in that way, as in what's my yearly cost. So I'm okay with it, but I can understand why a lot of people are not. But I wanted to share with you a discussion I saw about this on Reddit. And this person talks about, why the price isn't too bad, etc. And they point out a few things. And what they're pointing out is that the Nintendo Switch was quite underpowered. And, it gave you 720p on the handheld, 1080p TV output. But you can see there was a lot of games that just did not take advantage of that. And that's one of the problems I've had with the Switch. There was a lot of low-powered games out there, a lot of games with very low resolution. It didn't take advantage of its power. And now we're going to get 4K 60 or 1080p 120, etc. Again, I'm okay with the console pricing. For me, where it really falls down is the pricing of games and the pricing of accessories. And you can see here, $80 games. Now, as far as the games go, I think we're talking about $70 for the digital version, $80 for the physical version, or there or thereabouts around the world, euros, pounds, etc., wherever you are. And I will say, for comparison, yes, I grew up at 80s, 90s, and I remember for the Super Nintendo, I bought games that were £60, £65, £70 using Christmas money, birthday money, and then later on money that I'd earned on my own from jobs, etc. So this isn't new. Having games priced at that price point is not new. We've had expensive games in the past, and if you look at it from an inflationary point of view, actually those games are not too bad. But I don't agree with those prices. I am with a lot of people who are saying the games are too expensive, and I agree. I really do agree with that. I mean, if you've owned the Switch, you probably know that the Switch has a lot of great first-party titles, a few good third-party titles. But as far as really good games, what are you talking, 10, 15 games? And then one of the problems I had with the Switch was that there was no really good games in between. Like if you go into the store, the Nintendo store, you'll get a lot of games at 35, 40, 50, 60 bucks. And then there's kind of nothing in between. And then there's all these games which are kind of like mobile phone games, that sell for like £1, £2, $3, whatever. So there was always this gap in the catalogue. There was always, really good games and then just filler, just not good enough games. So I was quite encouraged by the launch to see that there's all these kind of third-party games coming out. And yes, some of them are remasters of games from the last generation, etc. But I'm okay with that because I'll be playing the games on a handheld, etc. But I do think that the games are expensive. One of the problems with the Switch is that games don't really come down in price. Not really. If you go into the store, you'll see that the games are kind of the price they were years ago. Now, contrast that with Xbox, where I've got Xbox Game Pass. I've paid for it, 3 years in advance. I can get lots of games downloaded for free now for the next few years. But also, there's a huge amount of games out there, high quality games, which are like, $5, $10, $15, $20. There's a lot of good games there. And it's the same in the PlayStation world as well. So when I saw the pricing for Nintendo's games, I was a little bit disappointed. So I think the games are expensive. Hopefully we'll see some discounts. Hopefully we'll see some sales, etc. Probably not on Nintendo titles. But the other thing is controllers as well. The Joy-Cons and the new Pro controller, etc. All of these controllers are going to be like 70, 80 bucks. And I've seen some people talking about this already, that when you add the cost of the Switch 2, not this one, the Switch 2, when you add the cost of the Switch 2 and then you add another Joy-Con, another controller, and then you buy a second or third game, people are doing comparisons between that and, for example, buying an Xbox Series X or a PS5 Pro, and then looking at the cost. And when you start adding a lot of accessories and when you start adding a few games, the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S as well, they do look like cheaper options. They do. And that's the thing. If you are not a Nintendo fanboy, if you're not emotionally invested in a lot of Nintendo titles, I kind of am, if I'm honest. I love Mario games. I love Mario platformers. I love Mario Kart. I love the Zelda games, etc. And I like this games catalog. If you're more of a PC gamer, etc., if you more an Xbox, PlayStation, and you don't have a love for Nintendo games, then you're not going to pay the Nintendo premium. That being said, I do agree with what a lot of people are saying. I'm okay with, here in the UK, the pricing of $430 for the Switch 2 with Mario Kart. I'm okay with that. I can live with that. That's kind of in my brain what I expect to pay for a new generation console, and a console which is also a handheld. Let's not forget the Switch is also a handheld, so it's not always a like-for-like comparison with something like the Xbox Series X or PlayStation 5, etc. I'm okay with the pricing, but there's no getting away from the fact that Nintendo's accessories are very expensive, that games are quite expensive as well, and if you're going to have a couple of games, if you're going to have a few accessories, it quickly becomes expensive. So not happy about it, but I've pre-ordered the Switch 2 anyway. I'm going to buy it. I'm sure I'm going to buy some accessories. I'm sure I'm going to buy some games. But I do fully understand why a lot of people are upset about the pricing. I can understand why people are spamming Nintendo's live streams about it, etc. I do wish that the pricing was a little bit more affordable for more people, but I get it. We're living in a world today with tariffs, we're post-COVID, there's a lot of things going on. I kind of half expected pricing to go up a little bit, but it's kind of disappointing. But over to you guys. That's my 2 cents on it anyway. I think the announcements for the Nintendo Switch 2, I've been really enjoying them. I've been enjoying watching all the clips of it. It's a lot of good games here, which I'll end up buying. I think it looks good. It looks like the console itself is going to be a lot of fun. It looks like it's a console that's going to be a lot of fun to take traveling if you're going on holidays, if you're traveling on the train, on the bus, etc. So I think the hardware looks good. I think the software looks good, but you do have to pay for that privilege. You do have to pay for it. So over to you guys. What's your thoughts on the Nintendo Switch 2, and what's your thoughts on the pricing of the hardware, of accessories, and the games itself? Thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, take care.